Hello, welcome or welcome back. Today I am doing another Neville Says, where I take a quote from Neville and I share my interpretation of that quote and how you can apply it directly to your life to get what it is that you want, which is why we're all here. Today's quote is on one of my favorite topics, revision. So stick around. My name is Hedley Derenzie. I am a qualified life coach and author. I am also super passionate about the amazing teachings of the law of assumption as originally taught by the wonderful Neville Goddard. It is the stories we tell that create our life. So if you want to change your life, then you have to change the story that you're telling and you have to persist with that new story. And if you want to create the most amazing life, then you need to know how to tell the most amazing stories and persist with those stories too. Thanks to these teachings, I'm now telling myself better stories and persisting with them, and I want to help you to do the same. If you would like support with that, I am available for one-to-one coaching. Those details are below, or if you just want to stay connected, I am on Instagram and those details are below as well. Just before making this video, I want to give a little disclaimer that when talking about revision, I am talking about going back into your past and working with old memories, some of which may be traumatic. If you feel that this might be something that's triggering for you, I would maybe recommend not watching this video, or if you do watch this video and you want to use the technique of revision, but you have some events that may have been traumatic in your past, I would highly recommend seeking out a medical professional who is experienced with trauma to support you on this process. You are responsible for your mental health. I am not a mental health expert. I am just sharing what has worked for me and also the teachings of the law of assumption as taught by Neville Goddard. It is important that you look after yourself and look after your mental health, and if that means seeking out a medical professional, I would highly recommend that you do that. Okay, now that I've said that, let's get into it. I am taking a quote from The Complete Reader, which has become my absolute favorite book of all time. The quote is from The Law and the Promise, chapter 3, Turn the Wheel Backwards. Backward? Turn the wheel backward. Now, when I came into these teachings again after a very long hiatus, I was all about creating reality, like creating my future, and that was what really excited me. And I kind of bypassed the whole revision thing. I wasn't really into it. Like I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'm not interested in the past. Forget the past. The past is done, blah, blah, blah. Then I had a few experiences where I ended up using the technique of revision, experiencing some pretty amazing results, and my interest was piqued around this idea of revision. And so I went back and really gave the whole topic of revision a lot more time and attention in terms of really understanding it. It is actually becoming perhaps my favorite topic. There's past and there's the future. Both of them are just concepts that we hold in consciousness. So much of us are driven by the past and by memories. What we give attention and focus and energy to is what will show up in our reality, because reality is just a reflection of consciousness. So I've since come to understand that revision is super important in this work. We've all experienced shit from our past. We've all experienced like shitty things basically that happen that we wish didn't happen. And the beautiful thing with revision is that we can go back and change them because nothing is set in stone. It's all in consciousness, and whatever is in consciousness is up for change. With that in mind, let me give you the quote. It is to the pruning shears of revision that we owe our prime fruit. Man and his past are one continuous structure. This structure contains all of the past which has been conserved and still operates below the threshold of his senses to influence the present and the future of his life. The whole is carrying all of its contents with it. Any alteration of content will result in an alteration in the present and the future. The first act of correction or cure is always revise. There's obviously a lot there to work with, as there tends to be with these quotes. One thing that I never realized is that the past is still alive and active, and that our past is just one continuous structure. And so whatever stories or whatever experiences we had in the past, especially traumatic ones or ones that we were unfavorable, they are still running now. So the impact of those stories that we were telling in the past, if we haven't revised them, those stories are still very much alive and they are running. And I know for a fact in my own life that that is true. And I never realized it until becoming really into connection with these teachings and these truths. And my God, I mean, as some of you might even know, I've written a number of books. I'm an author, and I've written about 6 books, and they're all memoirs, so they're all based on personal experience. experience. Certainly there's a couple of books that I've written where I was really telling an old story, not realizing that by keeping those stories alive, by telling those stories and writing about those stories, I'm very much keeping them alive, and they're experiences that I wouldn't necessarily want to be having again. Now that I understand the power of revision, what I am doing on a regular basis is I am going back into my past, and I am taking some of the more traumatic experiences in my life and I am rewriting all of them, and I'm doing all of it in my consciousness. And the way I do it is I will pick an event, and I'll give you an example. So when I was younger, and I want to say any example or any story that I give, I'm doing it very carefully because I don't want to reaffirm the old story. So I will say in the past, in another version or another timeline, when I was young, my parents got divorced, and it was at that time for me in that version of myself, that was a very traumatic experience. So thanks to these teachings, I have been able to use the power of my imagination to go back to that particular moment, which if any of you have been through something like that, and we've all had traumas, we've all been through all sorts of crap, you'll know that you can remember those events like they were yesterday. You can pull them up immediately, like that filing cabinet is right up front and center, you know what I mean? It's very easy to go back to that image and to that memory, and what I actually do is I rewrite the scene. I'll rewrite the narrative to a more favorable scene, and I've played with a few different outcomes with that particular scene, because you know you can do whatever you like. You're the gods of your reality. You are the director, the writer, the producer, the actor in your movie, so you get to write the script. So I'm like, okay, cool, well I can write anything I want for that particular memory, that particular time in my life. So I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite that scene so that when my parents sat my brother and myself down to tell us this news, what they told us instead was that, look, they'd had some problems, but they've decided they're going to renew their vows, and they're going to commit to the marriage, commit to us, and commit to staying as a family. I just rewrote that story and that narrative and this whole script, and I played it out over and over and over, and I'm still doing it because, you know, you've lived with these memories for a really long time. They're quite ingrained in subconscious. So I replay it over and over and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse until that scene starts to become more natural than the old version. And that's all you need to do with revision. You don't need to know or try and figure out how that then gets shown up in reality. Again, that is not our job. Our job is not to deal or even mess with reality. We're also the audience in our own movie, which is why this is just so phenomenal, that we are not only playing all these roles, but then we also get to sit back and watch how this actually gets to play out. And so when you revise something from your past that was unfavorable and you revise it to a more favorable situation and outcome, and you rehearse it enough times so you embed that story in your subconscious so that becomes the new story, then you get to sit back and just know that reality will reflect back your consciousness. And because you've shifted in consciousness, you know that reality has to catch up for it, and it'll reorganize itself somehow, some way, in the most phenomenal, amazing ways. You don't know how, you don't know when, it's not for you to know. Your job is to sit back and watch the show. You're now the audience in your own movie. You've done the work, you've shifted your consciousness, you've recreated the scene to a more favorable one. So now you get to sit back and watch the show and see how things play out. And you know, that's why this is such a beautiful experience. It's a mysterious experience. We do not have to know everything. We will not know everything. There's no point in trying to figure out how to know everything, because it'll never happen. Please remember, you are the creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the writer, the director, the producer, the actor of your movie. Whatever you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you and assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. And this is my wish for you. Thanks for listening. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please feel free to share with family and friends. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I'd love to have you, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye.